In my perception, you really see a transition from kind of the old world before Alexander to what came after him. He's really a transitional figure who had one foot in the old world and one foot in the new. He was really the hinge upon which the beginning of Presbyterianism in a more formal, educated, mature way came about in America. So I don't think his importance can really be overestimated. All of the generations of Presbyterians that we look up to in America had their starting point right there from him. It was him at Princeton in 1812. I think the year after, Samuel Miller became the second professor, and then Charles Hodge in 1820 and 1822 became the third professor for basically most of the rest of their lives. And that's where American Presbyterian came from. And it's just great that it had such a solid, godly foundation.
Yeah, and the seminary came into existence at a time when the scientific enlightenment had had a huge impact upon American college education, and there was a shift in focus, interest, and emphasis, as well as a decline in morals on college campuses. And Princeton was no longer the place many ministers felt to get that sort of preparatory ministerial training, what there was of it as part of the broad-based liberal arts curriculum. And they felt that the time had come to, in effect, create a school that would specialize in preparation for ministry. And even the study formally of Hebrew was something new at the time. Hodge himself was one of the leading Hebrew experts in the 1830s after his study in Germany, which is just hard to imagine that there were only a couple people here
Right.
on American soil who had the competency. And so he brings that linguistic exegetical skill into his own teaching at a later point, which in its own discussion, if you follow through on that, I find it interesting when sometimes people feel that he was more influenced by the Scottish Enlightenment, when in fact he was an exegetical theologian who worked with the primary text for decades as a foundation for what he did structurally in terms of his teaching of systematics. But at any rate, they had a burden for that, and they wanted to integrate piety and learning as essential components of making a man of God who would be effective not only as a teacher, but recognizing that what we say has to be rooted in the character of our lives for God to bless it in combination with, as it were, power and demonstration of the Spirit's ministry. And that was the heartbeat of these men coming into, the creation of the school, coming with 20 years of pastoral ministry each, et cetera, and what they brought to how they wanted that school's identity to function. They didn't just want literate scholars. They wanted competent pastoral practitioners who would be leaders who train men